individuals for you. I have two fabulous assistant principals that I work with. Karen Weber works with 6th grade, and one of the 7th grade teams. She is, thank you, she is 7 service principal. Thank you. And Mr. Sedlak, our tech coordinator. He's our assistant principal who works with all of 8th grade, and then he works with 2 of the 7th grade teams, 7 Integrity and 7 Respect. Thank you both for attending. And then we have an incredible guidance department, so I want to thank all of them for being here as well. Bobby Wallach is our 8th grade counselor. Monica Strebe, 7th grade counselor. And Courtney Wood is our 6th grade counselor. Thank you. We also have some individuals that bring a district perspective to answer some of our questions about our new website and about Home Access Center. So I'd like to thank Cheryl Sheesley, our communications director, and Kim Lawson, who works with her directly, and that's equipment, and Mike Schnellinger in the back. He is our technology director for the district. So thank you all for coming. We have a number of topics that hopefully are really informative for you. So Karen and Michael and I are going to talk with you about just our middle school in general, and we're just going to give you an overview of what a middle school is all about. And then our guidance department is going to take over from there and talk with you about some social media topics. That is always an interesting topic, so that we are as in the know as our students are. And also about what adolescence is all about and what's normal. So they'll be very helpful. And then, as I mentioned, our technology crew is here, and our communications crew to talk with us about our website and our Home Access Center. Hopefully it'll be very informative. The first thing I'd like to do is have you think about maybe your own middle schooler, or what you think about what middle schoolers are like. So just think about some adjectives that describe middle schoolers. Range from positive to negative. I'm going to give you a second to think about that.
School appropriate.
Yeah. Is anyone willing just to share an adjective or two? We can just call them out. What's a middle schooler like?
Moody.
Moody.
Creative.
Creative.
Independent.
Independent.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
Awkward.
Awkward.
Impulsive.
We would share those same adjectives. Funny, they are emotional, they like to move, they like to be active, they're very social, so they learn through social interaction. And so what we have at our middle school, you hear some photos of some middle schoolers in action in the classroom. We have staff who are trained to work with middle schoolers and who love middle schoolers. And we have parents who are right there with us in full support, partnering with us. We have programming in our middle school designed to work specifically with this age group. So all those things that we mentioned, again, from the pros to the cons, we've all been there. We all went through this awkward stage. And so we really design our programming to support their unique needs and make sure everything's very developmentally appropriate. This is not intended for you to read this. I just want to show you, there's a one-page document from the Association for Middle Level Education, and that was formerly known as the National Middle School Association. So this document summarizes for us what a true middle school should entail to meet these unique needs of middle school students. We actually have a book designed for that called This We Believe, and so this one-page document, again, is a summary of all of that. And we use this when you hear the term middle school philosophy, if you've ever heard that. It really stems from the AMLE, This We Believe booklet. And basically it just tells us what we should have in place to meet the needs of our middle school students. One of the characteristics basically says educators who value young adolescents and are prepared to teach them. And not everyone is cut out to be a middle school educator, but we have an incredible staff here, and I know that you know that. I see it every single day. I moved my family to this district because of this staff. They are just fabulous, and they love middle school students. So hopefully that's your experience as you work with all of us here. We love students at this age, and we are here to support them. So I just wanted to share this with you, just because I know we use that term middle school philosophy. I just wanted you to know exactly where it comes from. I'm going to turn it over to Karen, who's going to talk with us about some of the resource personnel here for students and families.
Good morning. Thanks for coming today. We want to make sure that you
are aware of the resources available for your students while they're here under our care. So we have a couple different avenues for that. As you know, Dr. Cockley, Mr. Sedlak, and I work together in the central office, and although we each have our own little areas that we oversee, we also work collaboratively. So anytime that one of your kids might come in to report something or have a problem or a concern that they want to share, we are all always available for them. Additionally, we have our main office staff. Mrs. Andrasik sits at the first desk, and she's our attendance secretary. So she works with your students on that. Mrs. Bogrand sits at the next desk, and she's a general office secretary, and Mrs. McCoy is our head secretary in the office. And they're, hopefully you always find them very polite and helpful as well. And then Mrs. Shantz is our Student Resource Center secretary. She's in the Commons, and she has a lot of interactions with the kids as far as them signing up for things, or they're lost and found, or if they have a problem, they'll often go to her and she can refer them to the right spot. And then finally, we have, as Kim mentioned, our 3 wonderful guidance counselors. And we really work as a team with our guidance counselors. So the benefit of the way we have things structured is that they will follow your child's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and really get to know you and your children as they come through so that we can better service them. And then Mrs. Mazur is the head secretary in the guidance office.
Hello. I'm a little nervous. You guys kind of mentioned all my characteristics when we talk about those students. So I don't know what that says about me. So I'm going to talk about teams. We do take 1,100 kids and break them up into 3 communities, which are also teams. The communities range from 6th to 8th grade, integrity, respect, and service. And then in each grade level, they're on a team. Those teams meet weekly, which I will be leaving for another team meeting in a couple minutes. And those meetings consist of the core teachers as well as guidance and administration. So every week we're meeting, we're talking about your children, talking them support, we're talking about cross-curricular activities, when assignments are due and big tests and projects. So the project that Mr. Gower gave last night, he really didn't give last night, and he's been talking with this team. So the test that's also tomorrow, that's all been planned out weeks in advance. So if you're checking and keeping up on SunGuard and the different calendars, you'll see that those have been assigned well in advance. And we didn't just assign it, the teachers did not just do that the night before. We have a little cheat sheet here on all the stuff we're supposed to talk about, and I think I got it. So teams really are here to support you. It is part of that middle school philosophy, which Dr. Pett spoke about. AMLE. So we really embrace that here at the middle school and with you and your children there as well. So I'll turn over to Mrs. Wallach. Thank you. And now I'm going to meeting.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it. My name's Bobby Wallach. I have the 8th grade this year. So I've been with that group since they were in 6th grade. And it's a wonderful group, and we're going to DC in June, and I'm really excited. We haven't had that trip in many years, and I know the students are excited, and I'm going to attend as well, and it's going to be a great time. And in the last 2 years, we have hired 2 new counselors at Hudson Middle School, and they're both fabulous, and I could not be happier. Mrs. Strebe and Mrs. Wynn, they'll be speaking with you in a little bit. But it's a great place to be, and I'm really thankful to be here. I am going to talk about social media 2014. If you were here last year, you heard social media 2013. I thought that I would be talking about completely different apps this year. So last week I went to the lunch, 8th grade lunch, and I walked up to a table of girls and I said, girls, what are the most popular apps that students are using these days? I'm talking at the PTO Dialogue next week. I want to make sure I have the most updated information. So what do you think they said? Oh, Instagram was #1. In fact, I think there were about 6 students and they all said in unison, Instagram. I mean, it just overwhelmingly was the most popular app that they are using. And we'll get into more detail in a minute. Number 2, as you can see behind me, was Snapchat. And any idea what the third one was?
Facebook?
You know, believe it or not, I am not going to be speaking about Facebook or Twitter today at all, because I don't think I've ever had a student in my guidance office in the last 5 years say one thing about Facebook or Twitter. I think to them, Facebook is for their parents and grandparents, and Twitter is for the educators. I think there might be high schoolers that are on Twitter, but I have not heard one middle schooler talk about either of those. Actually, the third one was Vine. And Vine is very similar to Instagram. It's 6-second videos that you can share. And the other apps that I'm going to speak about today are the 2 that I'm the most concerned about, Kick and Ask FM. And also Yik Yak, people have been talking about. Luckily, none of my middle schoolers have talked about that yet, which is good. YouTube is huge for middle schoolers. I don't have that up here to talk about because I think everyone's familiar with just short videos. But I find that my own children, I have a middle schooler and an upper elementary child, they don't watch TV ever. They will just go and watch YouTube videos. And that is their way to relax. And a lot of students tell me about that too, that that's what they do. So that's something else that you want to be aware of. Okay, so Instagram. Everybody knows the basic premise of Instagram, correct? I remember last year kind of explaining how it works, but I think by now everybody's familiar with it. There are pictures, instead of status updates, there's actually pictures, and then you follow, the user would follow others, and then others would follow them. And I find that Instagram overall is pretty innocuous, but I do have some concerns about Instagram. I think there are some pitfalls. And number 1 is, I think some students use Instagram as a gateway to get others to comment on their Ask FM account or their Kick account. And both of those can be anonymous. And I think that's where you can get into maybe some problems. Luckily, I don't hear too much about this, but I think that we as parents really need to be aware of it. If your child has Kick or Ask FM, we'll get into that in a minute, why I think that there should be some concern and a lot of monitoring for those 2 apps in particular. There are also some interesting social aspects with Instagram I'm sure you're aware of. One is how many followers you have. I think children use that as a social standing. The more followers you have, the more interested people are in you, and more, the higher the social standing that you have. And what I always told my children and any student in the guidance office is, for your own safety and protection, do not let people you don't know personally follow you, and do not follow others. But then, I think that need to have a high number of followers, sometimes they're allowing others to follow them that maybe they don't know. Then the number of likes on a photo, that's a big thing. It's almost like a little comparison game. How many likes did you get? How many likes did you get? And of course, the more followers they have, the more likes they have. So this is just something I'm sure you've heard in your own home if your child's on Instagram. This is not new to you, but it's just an interesting phenomenon. So like I said, I think it could be innocuous, but there are some areas of Instagram you should definitely be aware of. Another one, I just read an article yesterday. I tweeted it last night, and it will be on our website. It was an article about Instagram, social media, likes, and something called FOMO, because there has to be an acronym for everything, which stands for fear of missing out, which is a very real thing. I think when students are flipping through Instagram all day long, and all of a sudden they see their friends out at Starbucks and they weren't invited or something, sleepover, that's a really real feeling that we've all had of being left out at one point or another. And I think that's a pitfall of Instagram. If your child's on Instagram, I would definitely encourage them to keep it private, and perhaps you can set up an Instagram account yourself. You follow them. Hopefully they'll follow you if you post anything. So any questions about Instagram, since I think that's the biggest one that our middle schoolers are on and interacting with, and okay. All right, I also have Snapchat on here. Yeah, maybe you're familiar with this app too. The middle schoolers definitely use it, and you can send a picture to one other person or a group, and then theoretically it's supposed to self-destruct after 1 second to 10 seconds, and you can set the time. However, as you know, you can take screenshots of whatever is on your phone at that or device at that time. So if a student's sending something that might be embarrassing to somebody else, thinking, well, it's going to disappear in a few seconds, and then the other person takes the screenshot, it's there forever. So if you're talking to your child about Snapchat, they probably know this already, but it's really important that you know this as well. Next slide. Okay, these are the two that I am the most concerned about. If your child has Kick or Ask.fm, these are all free downloads on any device. And as I said before, it's because if they share their username on either of these two sites, anyone who has that username can write something anonymously to them, okay? What I'm seeing a trend is on Instagram, students have their own biography page. They have a picture of themselves and they write their interests and things like that. And then a lot of them will write their Ask.fm username down there. And then anyone could just click on it and ask them a question. Now, it's just inherent for middle schoolers to want others to be interested in them. So to get a lot of questions asked to them is a good feeling. Ooh, there's a lot of questions, and people want to know this about me. What are my thoughts? So, you know, they open themselves up to getting questions coming their way. But as we all know, I'd say usually there aren't any problems. But if you've read anything in the news in the last year, there have been problems with Ask.fm and cyberbullying and things of that nature. So if your child is on either one of these, I would suggest that you're very vigilant in monitoring those sites, especially at this age. Ask.fm, if you can go back real quickly, Ask.fm isn't even out of this country, so I've read if there are complaints of things, and there are really no U.S. laws that are monitoring the site. And Kick is an unlimited texting app, so it's just unlimited for students who maybe have different types of phones, but they can't communicate with each other, or an iPod without cellular service. They would all use this app so they can communicate with one another. And it wouldn't matter which type of phone you had, okay? All right, the next two, Vine. I'm not on Vine, so I was asking a lot of questions about this. And even my own children who don't have the app either knew about it, because you make 6-second videos, and then you can post it on Vine. But you can also post those on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. And like I said, not many of the students use Facebook or Twitter that I hear about, but definitely they do YouTube. And if you go on iTunes, it is rated 17+. And yesterday I was driving my middle school daughter and her friend somewhere, and I said, do you know anything about Vine? And luckily my daughter didn't know very much. She knew that you could put those videos on YouTube. But the friend said, oh, I'm on it, and there's really bad language and a lot of inappropriate things. So if your child's on Vine, I would suggest learn more about it and maybe monitor that very strictly. Yik Yak is just something I've been hearing a lot about, so I downloaded the app. What's Yik Yak? What's this all about? And the interesting thing about Yik Yak is it's based on your location services. You have to turn that on under settings. And it's almost like a Twitter, but just for the vicinity of where you are at that current time. So people just, it's all anonymous. There are no usernames. People are just posting funny comments or thoughts or observations. And then the people in the surrounding areas that are following would read those. They're called yaks. And I've just been on it for a week, and I'm finding that it's high schoolers and college students use it. I have not heard of any of this in my middle school office. I even asked the students, have you ever heard of Yik Yak? They said, we heard of it, but we don't use it, which I'm glad, because a lot of it was very inappropriate. And what I think is interesting too is I clicked on one of the yaks just to see if it would pinpoint exactly where that person was when they wrote it. And it doesn't, but it shows a map of maybe like a 2-mile radius of where that person was. So that's a little disturbing, knowing that your child can, you know, it's almost like a Twitter, but somebody can pinpoint their location or the vicinity. So just be aware of that app. Like I said, as of now, I'm not hearing about middle schoolers using it, but something to definitely be aware of. And, you know, we talk a lot about social media, but I have to tell you, 75% of the time, or maybe even more, students are talking about good old-fashioned middle school social situations that you could have heard about 20 years ago. Somebody's saying something about me that's not true. I feel left out. They used to be my friends, but now they're not. And they're, you know, being really cold towards me. I hear that more than I hear information about social media. So I just wanted to talk about that real quickly. Year after year, I know it's your phone. You are responsible for who texts from it. It's still ultimately your phone. And then number 3, be tactful or don't say it at all. You know, it's which we all grew up with. Don't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Number 4, I talk about a lot. It says walk away from gossip. Anything you say will either add to the drama or reduce it. And not just gossip, just in general. If there's an issue, I always tell the students just to empower them. Okay, if you can't control other students, but you can control yourself. If you want to stay away from drama, but it's coming towards you, that might happen, but the way you react to it can either add to the drama or reduce it. So if somebody comes up to you and says, did you hear what they said about you? If you could reduce it by saying, no, I don't believe in that, it's not true, whatever, I'm not, you know, interested in that. Or, oh my gosh, what did they say? Do you know how I think about her? Oh, and you gotta tell her, and tell, you know, and obviously the way you react is if it's going to be a bigger issue or reduce it. I think I'm running low on time here, but, you know, number 6 is trust your gut instinct, which I tell my own children. Really, if something doesn't feel right, then trust your gut. And, you know, if hopefully you're comfortable talking about this with a parent, and, you know, really try to empower students that they have, you know, the capacity to make those choices. And then number 7 is just put your time and energy into people who are deserving and general and genuine, because I think students know the ones that they really can trust and the ones that, you know, maybe they've learned in the past. I don't know, you know, and so we talk about this a lot. Well, thank you so much for your time. Any questions? Was there any app that I didn't get to that you're hearing about?
I have a question, and I know we're supposed to wait for the last, but actually, what about the fact, like, I tease my kids that they'll have the biggest flip phone in high school, and they don't have phones, and am I just like making them, I mean, are they not gonna fit in, or, I mean, I'm like keeping the electronics to a major minimum.
Well, you know, you have to do what you're comfortable with and what your family's comfortable with. And, you know, I think explaining that to your child is, you know, those are the rules of the family. And you're not the only one. I hear parents say this as well. Everybody's different. Some parents are really embracing technology and others are limiting it. And, you know, that's your family decision. There is really no right or wrong answer, you know. But of course, the children are going to make you feel like everybody else has the latest and greatest device, and they're the only one in the entire Hudson schools that don't. You know, that's going to happen. But if that's what you're the most comfortable with, then by all means, you're the parent, and that's your house rules. So I would not feel bad about that. And you're not the only one. I definitely hear about others that have the same philosophy. So, any other quick questions? All right, well, how can you get involved? I'm going to turn it over to Courtney Wood, and she is going to discuss that. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. I am Courtney Wood, and I'm happy to be working with the 6th grade this year. And this is my first year in Hudson, so I'm very excited to be here. I grew up and graduated from Stowe, so I kind of moved back towards home. But I'm going to be talking a little bit about ways for you to get involved. And we will also, what I took this out of, it's actually a brochure. It is called Social Media Monitoring Tools for Parents, and it is current from 2014. So we're also going to be putting this as a download on the guidance website. So look for that to be up sometime this week.
Dr. Fackley, excuse me one moment, just to clarify that too. Will we have the entire PowerPoint presentation also available on the middle school website?
You're right. I see some of you taking notes, and I was going to jump in at some point. Our next couple of slides have a lot of information, so I just wanted to let you know all of this will be available on our website, and hopefully the video as well. We're working through that piece.
Okay, so how can you get involved? The first thing is to actually try to friend your child. So if they are on Facebook or they are on Twitter, follow them. I know middle school kids, they want to be independent. They don't want you in all of their business. But you guys are still the parents, and I know when I was living at home, my parents said, you're living under my roof and we're paying for the internet or, the cell phone. So the rule was, they had access to all of that stuff. So I think that's still today, you don't have to be posting, on their wall, embarrassing things like, cute footy pajamas that you bought at the store, anything like that. But just follow them, be a friend, be aware of who they're communicating with. Another suggestion actually in this article is tell other relatives. Maybe they won't friend mom, but maybe they'll friend a cousin or an aunt or an uncle or a neighbor, so maybe you can kind of sneak your way in through that avenue as well. Never give your child the password or restriction code if you have it. I know I was playing on my iPhone yesterday after I didn't even know this was available on that device, but on any Apple device you can actually go into general settings and you as the parent can put in a restriction code and you don't have to tell your child what that is. So I think it's a 4-digit code, and then you can restrict some of the sites or apps that they buy. So that's something that you might want to look into, and there's a lot of those suggestions in this guide that we will be putting online as well. Get the passwords from your kids for all of their devices and apps. I know there are so many apps out there. If you go to the App Store, there are a ton of them are free, and you don't really know what you're getting sometimes. And some of them also have pop-ups. So maybe the app is perfectly innocent, but then some of the other things that are popping up with it aren't. So just be aware of what they're downloading. Set parental controls on all electronic devices. Know what they download. So even if they just have, a Kindle or, some kind of tablet, just go on every so often and, just scroll through to see, even just to see if they're interested, and it doesn't have to be spying, but, just to kind of stay connected with them. Restrict times and places that kids can use electronic devices. This is probably the hardest. I know we have kids that come in and they're so tired in the morning, and we have them in the office and we're like, well, what time did you go to bed? And well, I went up to my room around 10:30. Okay. Well then, what time did you fall asleep? Well, so and so was texting me until 1 a.m. Well, no wonder you're tired. You had to get up at 6. So just be aware. I know another one is take electronic devices away at night, and I think this is wonderful. So if they have maybe a phone and they have an iPad and they have something else, maybe have a charging station that's not in their room. So it's in your bedroom, it's in the family room, it's in the office, and before they go to bed, that's kind of like their checkout, okay, everything has to go in there to charge for the next day, and they can pick it up in the morning. But that just gives them a little bit of a break because they feel like they are missing out, they're not constantly having access. Even us as adults, we have our phones with us, what if we miss a call, what if somebody texts us. So they're having that same feeling of missing out as kids, but they need that downtime. They need that time away from technology. They need their brains to kind of turn off, especially at night. They need sleep. Place computers in public areas. I know this might be back from the days where we had one computer in the house. It was in the family room. We all shared. Now we have tablets. We have other devices. But still, just make sure that you know where those devices are. And the last thing, if they find it, they will. I know just talking to the students and you probably talking to your kids, they know way more than we do about technology and getting around parental controls and downloading apps. So if they want something, they will find it and they'll find a way to get it, or they'll go to a friend's house and look at it. So just really talk to them about online safety. Back even when I went to school, we didn't have the means to put things out that would follow us the rest of our lives. And that's what we're really trying to talk to the kids about, is just digital citizenship. And things they post and pictures they post now and in high school, colleges can look at that when they're applying for jobs. I just went through the interview process. I know my name was Googled, and so you just have to really keep talking to them about, how this stuff can follow them. And even if they delete it, it's out there somewhere. Somebody has it in a screenshot on a hard drive. It is out there and it can be found. So another resource that we are going to give you at the end of this. We have these brochures called NetCetra, Chatting with Kids About Being Online. So we'll make sure everybody gets one before you leave. If you want to take more than one, if you have a neighbor that couldn't come or a spouse, then feel free to do so. Okay, but we're hoping this will kind of lead you into conversations maybe with your own kids tonight. You know, you can go back and say, oh, the counselors were talking to us about some stuff, and see what they share. Sometimes you'll be amazed if you just bring it up. You know, they might be in a talkative mood that day, so, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and introduce Monica Strebe, who's going to talk a little bit about typical adolescent development.
Thank you. I know this is small, but again, this will be on the website. So this is a little poem about what is a middle schooler, and I think it's so apt. So if I could read it to you since it's so small. What is a middle schooler, I was asked one day. I knew what he was, but what would I say? She is noise and confusion. She is silence that is deep. She is sunshine and laughter, or a cloud that will weep. He is swift as an arrow. He is a waster of time. He wants to be rich, but cannot save a dime. She is rude and nasty. She is polite as can be. She wants to be rich, but fights to be free. He is aggressive and bossy. He is timid and shy. He knows all the answers, but still will ask why. She is awkward and clumsy. She is graceful and poised. She is ever changing, but do not be annoyed. What is a middle schooler, I was asked one day? They are the future unfolding, so don't stand in the way. So I have a 7th grader, and I also am the 7th grade counselor, see a lot of my parents here. And I felt like this was just my morning. Truly. So, you know, it was interesting when Dr. Cockley asked you guys, you know, what is a middle schooler? And you heard some words like awkward and, you know, overwhelmed. You definitely see that. Moody. They are so many things all wrapped into one, boys and girls. I used to just think it was girls because I have 3 daughters. So, and it turns out it's not. The boys are exactly the same way, and that's acceptable, and that's exactly what we expect to see. On the next slide, and I won't read all these to you because I know it's a ton of information, but these are just within 11th and 12th grade, or 11th and 12th, 11 and 12-year-olds. Some of the changes that we see with them physically, socially, within language, and within their thinking as well. And the next slide has 13 and 14-year-olds. And I won't obviously read all of these to you, but they are going through so many changes in all these different areas. That's why we see them moody one minute, happy the next. They are too cool for you one minute, and then they want their mommy or their daddy right after that. I mean, we definitely see this. You know, when people say, you know, what is a middle schooler? Your answer is like, yes, it's all of the above. So, I mean, we see them, they're changing physically, and I just look at the 7th graders, the difference that, you know, I look at the 6th graders that are coming in that Ms. Wood is working with, and they're so tiny and they're so little for the most part. And then I see the 7th graders that have just blossomed over this summer, and I can't believe how big they are. But yet my 7th grade daughter is about this big, and she's a skinny little dinky little thing, and I know some of you have the same too. And then I look at the 8th graders, and I'm like, where do these young men come from that are coming in to talk to Mrs. Wallach? So, and some of the young ladies too, they're physically developed. They're amazing, the changes. And then when you go on into just socially too, how they're changing, I mean, they're obviously very interested in what their friends think of them. That's why we do see them so involved with social media, as they've spoken about. They care what others think of them. They want to know that others like them. They're very, very, very involved with what everyone else thinks. And mom and dad's opinion may not seem like the most important thing, but it truly, truly is. Okay, so they are not too old for you just yet, even though they're going to act like that. So when we look at all these different changes, one of the great things about this is their cognitive ability. They're really beginning to be able to think. And they're beginning to have much more in-depth conversations. That, to me, I love with my kids as they've gotten older. And I have a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And as they've gotten older, so every once in a while, my little one will say something so intuitive, and you know, she'll say something, and I'm thinking, wow, well, she gets it. And I'll have students in my office, and they'll start talking to me about things, and I'm thinking, wow, it's a little man here, a little woman talking to me. And it's so neat when you just see these light bulbs going off, and as they mature. So it's a wonderful thing to watch. But I guess the big thing is, you know, as they're changing and developing, what can we do as parents? What are some of the things that we can do? And so some of the things that I will suggest to you just in my years, like, I don't know, 15th, 16th year in education, and have been a parent for even longer. So some of the things, obviously, is protecting your child in this digital age. You know, they talked about getting online. I have a Twitter account. I have tweeted once. And that was enough for me. But I have it because my kids have a Twitter account. And I get on, and I will say to them, like, you know, what's this comment here? I don't really like this. And they're like, well, Mom, I just meant, I'm like, no, needs to come down. You know, they'll retweet something. Well, I didn't say it, I just retweeted it. But it looks like you said it, you know. And I have an Instagram account. Again, I don't even know what you call that. Instagram? I don't even know. I've never posted anything there. But I look at my kids. In fact, I was on last night going through just pictures, and then I am friends with a lot of my daughter's friends. And that was a weird thing for me at first because I came from a high school level where I would not friend any of my students. That's just a rule I have. I don't friend my students. This is a social website. You're not in my social circle. So becoming friends with my daughter's friends was kind of weird at first, but I love it. I love it, love it. So I have a senior, and one of the things that I do is, you know, they're getting ready to graduate, and this is the last year of soccer, and I've been screenshotting because it doesn't go away. I screenshot pictures all the time that they have of, you know, that they've taken at football games and things I'm not necessarily at. So it is a wonderful thing, but it is also something we need to protect them. I know it was mentioned about colleges. This is a true fact. I was at a workshop for high school counselors a couple years ago, and they were talking about, you know, do you guys, they were talking to all these different universities, private, public, small schools, large schools. Do you really look at their Twitter accounts, their Facebooks, yes, we do, especially if we get a call. They said, if somebody warns us about a website, we absolutely will get on. Miami, Ohio State were there, and they said, we will rescind an offer for scholarships, for acceptance in the university if there are things on there we do not approve of. So take that home with you. Tell your kids, my kids know it. Like, you are creating a permanent record. When I was young, my dad and mom always said, never let anyone take a picture of you doing things you wouldn't want me to see. So now it's, you know, pictures or tweets or texts or, you know, those things are out there. And so I tell my kids the same thing. If you second guess me looking at it, it should not be posted, period. So protecting our kids in this digital age is so important. Some of the things that, I'm skipping here, I'm sorry, I know my time is short. One of the things is getting to know their friends is so important. And you can do this in so many different ways. You know, you can befriend them online if their parents are okay with that, if they're okay with that. One of the things I do is I drive carpool all the time. And I love it. Now, not as much as my kids drive, but with my little one. I get so much information while driving the car. Yes, you know, I don't even have to say anything. I just take it all in, and they sit back there, and they just da-da-da-da-da. My oldest had surgery last week, and a couple of her friends came over to visit, and I'm in the living room, and my daughter's laying on the couch, and they're just checking with her, and they were filling her in on what she has missed at school. And I'm just listening, and they don't care that I'm there. They just talk, and I love that. But it's just kind of been the relationship. My husband's always like, Kylie, you need to invite Bianca over, because Bianca tells us everything. So I was like, oh, we haven't had Bianca over in a couple days. Let's invite Bianca over. My daughter just laughs, goes, yep, that's Bianca. No secrets there. I mean, I know probably more than I need to know about kids, but I also know about their parents. I know which parents are out of town, which is important information. I also know which parents don't care what their kids do. You know, my kids will tell me, like, oh, no, that kid, his parents are never around, they do what they want. I keep all this information, these little nuggets all the time. My husband's like, how do you keep all the information in your head? I'm like, you kidding me? This is the jackpot. That's got to stay there. We have the friends over all the time. Yes, it can be a big pain in the keister, and it can get expensive to feed all these kids. I don't care, because it's so worth it, and I know they're safe at my house, and I know they're comfortable at my house. So, you know, if my kids are going out, the last thing they hear from me is make good choices. Make good choices. You know, call me if anything seems awkward, if you want to come home. I've never, like, ever would give my kids the impression that I would not call and get them, no matter where they're at, no matter what time. Because I want them to feel like, you know, as they get older and there's peer pressure and they're going to be in situations they're not comfortable with, give me a call. I will come get you, no problem. So just keeping that line of communication open is so important, because as much as they think that they're beyond us, they absolutely need their parents. or their grandparents. They need an adult in their life to believe in them and that they can talk to. So while we think that they're so grown up and they've gone through all these physical changes and these emotional changes and they think they're so beyond it, they need us. And so encourage them to make good choices. Be that listening ear for them. Sometimes it's really hard not to start lecturing them. They'll tell you something about a friend, or like my 12-year-old is having a situation right now where her friend is not being very nice to her, and she's like, I don't know what happened. And this friend, I've noticed in the past, is a little bit moody. And she is friends with somebody one day and not the next, and friends, and I don't say like, she's not a good friend, I just say, well, I was saying to her last night, I said, well, have you noticed that that's happened in the past? Like, I'm just kind of pointing out what, and she says, yeah. Has she done that to anybody else? And I know the answer already, because she's already told me this, and she said, yeah. And I said, oh, I don't know. So what do you think that makes a good friend? I just kind of, I know all the answers before I'm asking these questions, but I'm just putting it out there. And so we're driving to a lesson last night, and she was like, I just don't think I might not sit with her tomorrow at lunch. I think I might just go with these friends, and maybe just need a little break, Mom. And I said, oh, I think that's a great idea. So just putting that out there. So they definitely need us, and we don't have to be in their face about it, but they do definitely need us. So just a couple more things. I know we need to move on, but when it comes to school and what we can do here, we obviously can get on and check their grades. I hope you guys all have access to do that. I'm sure you all do. Checking their planner, making sure it's filled out. A lot of the students, we still see this as an issue. They will write in the planner, and sometimes I'll ask them, what does that say? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, that's a problem when you get home and have to do the homework and you don't know what it said. So I encourage them to write clearly and take the time. Teachers will never have a problem with them taking a few extra seconds to make sure it's legible in their planner so they can go home. I do always tell them it should be something like, as I'm the parent, I should be able to look at your planner and know what your homework is.
So we had to find the right product that would allow us to build and allow our users on the adult side of things to get the content up there that made sense for parents. So how did we know what made sense for parents? Well, we brought them in. And some of you sitting here in this group were part of those sort of, I'm going to call them product focus groups, where we introduce different vendors. You could look at it and we ask our parents, what is it that is really important to you? So we needed that voice before we made our final decision. And that's how we got here. Then came the 9 months of design, and we had to start from scratch. And so we went to Penn State University. There were 6 of us that went, and in a minute I'm going to introduce Kim Lawson to you. Kim was one of those folks. At the time, she didn't work for communications. Kim is, as you might know or might not know, was the former Maine head secretary at the high school. But she's extremely tech savvy, and she knows the world of the main office in our buildings, which is really, really important. And so when the position became open in communications, Kim was one of our candidates, and we're very pleased that she is in communications, and a major part of what she does is helping people with the website, both inside the school district, parents, parent organizations. She came knowing that. She didn't say no, ow, I don't think I can do that. She said, let's go. So that's the way Kim is, and she figures things out, and she's willing to help any and everybody when it comes to the website. Now, I'm going to share a story with you just because I think it's important that you know that in my department there's a lot of empathy for what you're going through with the website on the parent interface. I moved, okay, and I know some of you have moved around a lot, but I moved in May. And I thought the move was hard enough. You know, packing up everything, getting rid of stuff, moving into a smaller place. And then the electronic changes started. And I thought, just shoot me, you know? So, you know, it's hard to imagine all the electronics that we're invested in right now. And when you do something like make a move, or, and I loved my phone number. I had my phone number for 23 years, and I moved right out of the digital area of keeping the same phone number. I had to change my phone number, and you know, so it's a lot. It's a lot of stress. And guess what we did to you? We stressed you out with this new website. So for that, I apologize. But we are very pleased with this website. What's left for us to do? Help you, okay? Because we know you're struggling with the registration process. It's very different than the old website. The other thing that we know you're struggling with a little bit is, why is it different? You know, why did you have to change it? You know, we were so used to what we were doing. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about the why of all of that. And then we're going to talk to you about how, as adult learners, what we're going to do for you to help make sure that you are, in particular, registered appropriately for what you need to get in the way of information on the website. So I'm going to give you a preempt of what's going to show up in your mail here, probably tomorrow or Wednesday. We are doing a mailer to every single family in Hudson that explains the website and that has an instructional card that you can keep. It's actually on styrene, you know, it doesn't crumple, it doesn't do a lot of things. So you can keep that from year to year to year to remind yourself of the two-step process. Two-step. And it was interesting when we got here, we were sitting behind listening to parents going, but I thought I did that. You know, I couldn't tell you how much we've heard with that. I thought I did that. I went in and I did that. And you did step one, but you didn't get all the way step two, through two. And as adult learners, we go through teachable moments. And that teachable moment is when one of your friends says, well, did you know that Picture Day was tomorrow? And you're going, no, I didn't know Picture Day was tomorrow. How did you know Picture Day was tomorrow? It's like, well, I registered on the website. Well, I thought I did too. Uh-oh, you know, something's not right. You know, so those are teachable moments for adult learners, and that tends to be when we go in and learn and do what we need to do and finish on things electronically. I did the same thing with my own banking when I changed it. I suddenly started getting paper statements. I'm like, I've never gotten paper statements. Why am I getting paper statements? Then I saw the charge on my statement thing, and I called the bank and I said, why am I being charged for paper statements? She goes, well, you didn't tell us not to send them to you. Well, when I changed stuff over, I forgot to click the box. So it cost me $3 for 3 months before I discovered it and made the change. So I get it. I get what you're struggling with, and I just want you to know that. So we're going to talk to you a little bit, and I'm going to let Kim take it from here, where she describes to you what you think you're seeing on the website is really not what you may be seeing, because it's pulling information from different places and showing it to you in one place, but it's not really there, which is what controls your subscriptions. Okay, so she's going to talk you through that whole process, but please look for in your mail coming, you should get exactly what's in front of you in the way of the letter and the card, and know that it doesn't stop there. We will help you during conferences. We're going to have some people in the buildings during conferences. If you just want somebody to be there and say, click here, click here, click here, we're going to do that. Kim is a phone call away, and you know, she prefers the phone call so she can be working while you're working and she can show you what to do. But with that, I'm going to turn you over to Kim, who I am really encouraging her to become the absolute guru of the website. And she wanted to put, she said, what do I put here for, you know, we said website help. She goes, do you want me to put webmaster? I said, no, because then that means people are going to expect you to do Mike Snellinger's job, which is how do I wire my computer. But I said, I'm going to be okay later if we put web guru there as the return. So with that, here's Kim Lawson.
Wow, that was a big lead-in. No pressure there. Basically, I do work on the user content with the parents, with the teachers. We spent a lot of time developing this website, but that's like half the project. Now we got to make it what we want it to be, and we're working on that internally, and then I want to work with you so that you get the information that you need. So, are there people in here who are not getting daily announcements who think they signed up for daily announcements? Or do we have like, okay, that's what I want to cover, and that's the main reason for the mailing that's going out, because it's a two-step process, and if you only got halfway through it, you didn't get all the information. I might need to put this microphone down because it's hard to do the computer in that, but. One comment is, you see these 3 bars up here? We're not seeing the full website. That has to do with, okay, I need it. The reason those 3 bars are up there is we're not seeing the full website because it's going through the VPU. So if you're ever on some device and you see those 3 bars, click on that and it'll give you options of drop down. So that's what that means. You're not quite seeing everything. You can see the site shortcuts weren't showing a minute ago. But I'm not going to do the register part because I think most people have done that, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Once you click on register, you just fill in all those boxes, create a username and password. It's the subscriptions part that seems to be getting everybody. So I'm going to sign in here.
I don't have any website jokes while she's doing it.
Okay, now that I've signed in, you can see the My Account up there. You're not going to see Site Manager because you don't have access to change our website, and I do. So that's a little different. But you would see the My Account, and I'm going to click on that and go to Edit My Account Settings. And I'm going to click on Subscriptions. So this is the main area where you manage your subscriptions. Underneath Manage Subscriptions, you can see everything that you've signed up for. And I've signed up for a lot. It would go down quite far. But so the first thing you need to do is go in and see what you've subscribed to see what you're missing. Now I'm going to get into the Manage Subscriptions. So this page, you see the tab over there that says Home Pages and Calendars. So anything you click on at this point, you will get any announcements that come from the home page or the calendar of those sites. Now, the middle school, you'll see on the home page, you see announcements. So you think, wow, I think I'd get the announcements if I do that. Well, no, because that's more of a window to another page that resides somewhere else. Because there's so many announcements at the Eastwoods Middle School and high school level, those are housed on a different page. So that's why there's an extra process to get that. And that's what that other tab, Other Areas of Interest, is for. The unfortunate part is it lists every page in the website. So they're all there. So it's a little cumbersome to pick them. So my recommendation is to type into that search box the page you're looking for. And in the information that we've mailed out and the stuff we're going to be mailing again, there's recommendations by building on what pages those principals recommend that you subscribe to. So for the middle school, I know off the top of my head, daily announcements and the principals page are two key ones to register for. So it brings you exactly to that page. Mine was already checked because I already subscribed to the middle school announcements. But you would just check that and click I'm done. You would do the same thing for the principals page. You can also do it for teacher pages. We're just starting to work with the teachers. They're not all using that. This is new to them as well, and they've got a lot on their plate. But I think it's a good idea to subscribe to all the teacher pages that your students, all their teachers. That way, over time, if the teachers start using it, you'll be ready. And different teachers communicate in different ways, but better safe than sorry, in my opinion. And then when you're done with it all, you just click I'm done.
And is that box in, I went through and clicked I went through that entire list, and that's what she's telling me though, that box that says daily announcements that's in middle school wasn't in the 50 different boxes.
It's in there somewhere. It's just really hard to find.
Okay.
It's there. You just have to scroll and scroll to find it.
I combed carefully, but she said my error was in not actually keying it into the search box so that it came up isolated as just
You could have done it either way. You could have scrolled through the whole thing. A lot of people are scrolling through and they're seeing a lot of stuff and clicking on areas that we'll never send, content alerts. I wish we could just display the ones that are relevant, but it doesn't work that way. So, yeah, you can scroll and click all the ones you want, or
so it is there.
It's there. It's there, yeah. Or you can search for all of them, get them all clicked, and then click I'm done, and then it'll list all of them. Just make sure you got everything you want. And then you can go back at any time, and next school year, change buildings, new teachers, go in, manage them, change them as you like. So it's a little cumbersome. We apologize for that, but once you figure it out, it's not that bad. Any questions?
The thing that I think, and I don't know for the middle school announcements, I don't know if it only updates when there is a change, because I know it seems like
Yes.
the middle school, I might be getting them maybe once a week compared to the high school where I'm getting them.
No,
well,
it is initiated by the secretary. I believe Julie McCoy sends it daily, so you might want to make sure, if you're only getting it once a week, you might be getting something coming from the homepage. Make sure you have the daily announcements. But it doesn't go out every time they make a change. Honestly, I don't think you'd like that, because we'll go in and make minor changes all the time. You would be bombarded by them. And we really try and balance sending them too much and trying to send accurate information. And you have to appreciate the secretaries for sitting there trying to decide, is this too much? Do I need to send this? Should I send it? You know, we can't know what everybody's thinking and what they want. So they just use their best judgment, work with the principals, and send what they really feel is relevant. But I know the middle school and high school do try and do at least a daily announcement. Even if it didn't change, they don't always change. You know, a lot of times it's not information. But I know some people want another email that says this is Wednesdays, this is Thursdays, whether it changed or not. So I think they're in a practice of doing that.
I think it varies by the school too, how they do that, because I learned at a meeting last week for my daughter in Ellsworth, they don't put it under the daily updates, it's under main office
Right,
updates or something.
it is
So you have
different
to make
at the
sure.
elementary level. You know, when we planned all this out, we sat with the different buildings because the needs are different at every building. So in one sense, we wanted it consistent, but on the other sense, the amount of information kind of grows as you move up through the buildings. So we tried to balance it out. So we worked with the building secretaries to see how many announcements do they have, and can they keep them on the home page, or do they need another page? And what we're doing right now is at the Eastwoods level up, they're on another page. On the first 3 elementary schools, it is on the home page, but they'll also put stuff in a featured news article, so they can send one from a featured news article. We can send something from a calendar event. So, you know, if the next day is picture day, they may choose to send it from a calendar event. So there's a lot of different ways of communicating this information. Bear with us as we figure out the best way, but the secretaries are kind of working through this and working with the principals and listening to their parents and, trying to get feedback and trying to find, the best way to do it.
So as I went through, I checked like probably 30 different boxes.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, based on what you just said, especially if we have kiddos at different buildings, if that would be your advice, at least initially, to check anything that you think maybe might be relevant.
Sure.
Because like you said, some of them are going to be dead and probably not generating anything.
Right.
Another one, you might not expect that you get something from a calendar event, but yet that's how that building uses it. So
Right,
is our
definitely to
best bet
err on
pick
that side,
everything for
because
now?
you just won't get an email from some of those, but that's okay, there's no harm done there. So yeah, I would think that's a good philosophy. But the calendars, and I do encourage you to look on the calendars. We're trying to really use the calendar tool a lot more than we used to on the old website. I don't know if you've been clicking on the events, but you can find a lot of information there. We'll post flyers, it's just a good source, and we're trying to use it more and more. A lot of times our announcement will just link to the calendar where we really have all the information. Any other questions?
One of the things that we're doing, because this is new for all of us, is that we are holding secretary user group meetings. So as they're getting feedback from their individual buildings, we're bringing them all together so that they can hear each other and understand, what is being asked of them to do. And so at the last secretary user group meeting, where we landed is exactly what Kim talked about, where our primary elementaries, Eva Mere, Ellsworth Hill, and McDowell, are the same. And then Eastwoods, the middle school, and the high school are the same. So that's in your chart. So there's really only 2 different ways, and that's where we're at right now. So we're trying to organize it. Our primary elementary buildings do not send daily announcements. They never have. One of the things that I think a lot of people didn't know about our old website was there were things that were on there that really didn't need to be subscribed out. I mean, they were just, sort of something that was going on in the building. But we didn't have a choice. If you posted it on the main page, it got sent. So I think a lot of us are looking at that change going, but I always got daily announcements. Well, you kind of always got maybe the same things over and over again, so this is more user choice, but we are trying to help you with that chart. And if you want to take a look at that chart and make sure that you have signed up in the way that it's in the chart, those are like the 3 or 4 basic things that each building identified that they want you to sign up for. Okay, so that chart is really important to you. The other thing is, please sign up for the district homepage and calendar. Don't forget about the district, because that is where your emergency information gets generated from. That is where school closings get generated from. Okay, that doesn't mean it's not going to show up later on a building page, but the initial announcement, the earliest announcement, the most important information is going to go up on the district homepage first. So you need to make sure, along with the building that your children are in, that you sign up for, that you also please sign up for the district homepage, so that you can get that early, that really important information and or emergency information as quickly as we can get it up there. So that's really important. Don't leave the district out, because a lot of people do. The next thing I'll share with you is, when we first got the registration process with the old website, which was 10 years ago, and many of you have been on it so long you don't even remember doing it, or you didn't do it. Okay, I mean, you're new, you're whatever the circumstances, but we've had a lot of people say to us, well, I already registered. Well, when did you register? Well, I registered last year. Well, none of that transferred to the new website, and it was a process to get people to register the first time. It's going to be a process this time. We expect to be doing it all year, a little bit of next year, and for however long it takes. But I'm going to turn this into a competition. The first building that hits 90%, we're going to think of something really cool to do for that building. I kept telling people, if they click on the other areas of interest, I think there's a sweepstakes underneath there or something. It's like, please just do this. And then, I think a lot of the things will be better for you. The other thing is, too, we know it's different for you when something is sent out to you. It looks like this big old ugly link. We get that. So we're working with, and my thing, because I like pretty, is can't we make this look better, But it required every secretary to go back in, create a user website, friendly URL, and we're like, okay, never mind. But please make your subject line, so if somebody doesn't want to click on that link, they know exactly what's in that update. So the subject lines are improving. We're seeing a lot of that. So we know it's different. We feel your pain. We're going to get through this year, and then after that, it's going to be, I think, something that you're just used to, which is the way it works for all of us. Thanks.
I was just going to say, it's really snazzy. It's really a great website.
Oh, I'll take that question. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I did have a
Okay.
question. Sorry.
All right.
Just, some of the modules, or whatever you call them, like the attendance page, it's got so many colors on it, it's really hard to figure out. Has anybody else been on the attendance page?
The middle school attendance
That's
page?
home access.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You're on, Mike.
You don't want to finish up your...
I think we were done, so that's Home Access Center, which I'll address next.
Thank you so much. Thank you both so much. I think that was really helpful to have that walkthrough of exactly how to do that. I know we're a little over time, and Mike Schnillinger is here to talk about Home Access Center, so that was your perfect segue. Thank you, Rita. He doesn't have a formal presentation, so he may talk for a minute or so, and then if you have any questions specific to Home Access Center, he is here to help support us. So, thank you, Mike.
So many colors. Yeah, there's a lot of colors there. There's a lot of different reasons. There's probably 26 of them, one for each letter of the alphabet, and the Crayola box is 8. So some of them have the same colors going. I don't know who asked the color question about the attendance. Help me out with the issue that you're having with the colors that are on it.
Can you go to the attendance page for the high school, for example? No.
Actually not, because it's not a website thing. It's an individual account. You are logged in, and for me to bring up a student in front of all of you right now might be very insightful, and I would so anything I say would be irrelevant instantly.
It's just really hard to tell, like, if you're looking to see if tardy, like, tardy may be the same color as expelled.
Yes, exactly.
Well, then what do we correlate with?
There are some that you really, the two blue colors are two completely different things.
This is interesting. This just came up about 3 days ago in another context. Let me talk to, it's really the EMIS, the Educational Management Information System people, the database people. Let me talk to them about changing those colors to sort of coordinate them from a parent access standpoint and what it means to them. Because I'm sure that the data people don't care about the colors at all.
Well, and sometimes, like, I think a good example is that tardy is the same color as, like, absent for half day. So, like, you might drop your child off, like, 2 minutes after the bell rings, but then you log in and it says you don't know if they're absent for half day. Like, did they not sign in properly? And then did the secretary call the teacher? Oh, yeah, they
Now
are
at
in class.
Hudson's,
Right,
late
so,
breakfast with friends.
and like, we're not gonna get into the right college because we missed a half day of school. Great, like, you know, it's a big deal for middle schoolers. Like, no, I signed
Well, certainly, because they're at the stage now where you begin to wonder if they're Hudson's having breakfast with somebody instead of in class, because it's becoming a plausible option. Let me check into that and see what I can do. If that happens, you'll just see that change. So I do know they're limited in the colors that they have, and I know that the data people do not look at this through your lens. In other words, they're looking at it through how that qualifies and how that gets reported to the state. But certainly in Home Access Center, your lens is entirely different, and you're looking at it for information that's relevant to you as a parent.
maybe if even there's like a symbol, and like if you are absent for a half day, if there's a symbol inside of that color.
Don't have a lot of control over it. It's not like the website where we're designing it with an open-ended product. It really is the product that we purchased to do this, but certainly the colors could be changed in a way that would be more indicative from a home access standpoint to be helpful to you guys. So I will check into that. If the colors change, you can just thank me silently. No extra charge for that.
My quick question, and maybe we didn't do it right, but for the middle school, you know, they have their courses that are, they go beyond the quarter, like specifically I'm talking about health class this time. So when we pull up my daughter's schedule, I don't get health. If I go in separately and type in health, I get it, but it doesn't give me an average, and I have to sort of do it all manually. So, and I understand that grade's not going to be on this first quarter. I get that it's the odd class out.
Trimester classes. You're not doing anything wrong. I don't know whether we're doing anything right or wrong, but we have this hybrid system. We're on quarters. And there isn't a product on the market that acknowledges that we could be in the same school building doing quarters and trimesters simultaneously. We do it because it's cost effective. It's also good for students to be in the classes for 12 weeks. It's very educationally sound. And one thing, if you haven't learned this, if you've been in other districts, one thing we always do here is what's best for kids, in spite of the structures that are sort of forced upon us. Technology should be empowering, but many times it's limiting. And in that context, technology would limit us, and in many districts it does. They would just say, well, we're not going to do trimesters because we can't fit it into this product. Well, we crammed it into the product. And so you get trimester 1 grades at the end of quarter 2, because it's really hard to give them a grade before it's over. So we can't do a quarter 1, although that's tempting, right? So unfortunately, it plays like a quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 grade within trimester 1, trimester 2, and trimester 3, because that's the next available time to give grades.
So by next quarter, it should appear in the
It will.
list.
As soon as you go to marking period 2,
it'll
it'll
pop up.
show. But again, it sort of exists in its own little world of trimesters. So if you went to trimesters, you would see those 3 courses only, and that's why you see it when you search, because they're sort of in their own school. It's almost like they went to another school for this, you know, enhanced program of unified arts, which it kind of is. I mean, it's not. I will say that we are. If you have any, if you guys have high school students, okay, I see a couple of yeses. Okay, this quarter we will be doing. We will not be sending home paper report cards. The report cards will be PDFs within home access. It's only happening at the high school. We're going to see how that looks. At the semester, because there's a lot of semester things that go on, those will be handed out in addition to what's in Home Access Center. But by third quarter of this year, or certainly hopefully by next year, middle school will be the same way. And ideally, you can see where the report card paper going home is sort of almost late. It's a day late and an hour short because the grades closed on Friday. You already know what they are by Monday when the teachers are done. It's sort of like you know how your kids are doing all along the way. Why do you need this piece of paper that's already a week old telling you after the fact? I mean, we all kind of hang on to it because we're all used to it ourselves, but that'll help also because you won't feel like there needs to be some sort of grade for the trimester because you sort of look at it as an ongoing process. But no,
Can I jump in for
sure.
a quick second? What I was doing was pulling up our website on our announcements. All the way at the bottom was an announcement specific to that. I was hoping it was still there. I think it must have just recently come up. That's okay. And basically, I don't know that you said this part, but on your home access page, there's a little drop-down box at the top, and right now it's set to, I think the default is report card run 1. And if you choose all report card runs, I believe, suddenly it appears. And it appears right in your list of all your courses. You can see each grade and it averages it for you.
Oh, good, okay, because my math is the same.
Yeah, it looks just like all the other courses, and it's just because suddenly now it's showing every course. And that's the only other one that exists right now. It's the only other quarter that's out there right now is your first trimester class. So you can just change that drop down.
And I would warn you that when it goes to the report card run 2, if depending on how you look at it, there'll be a panic attack because all of a sudden the A or B that your child was getting becomes a 0% F if you're looking at it only in marking period 2 because you're only seeing the first assignment that went in. You see what I'm saying? You're not looking, you need to look at report card run 2, which is when all the grades for the 12 weeks will be calculated, not just the one that went in the Monday after the grading period changed. So a heads up on that and tell all your friends, don't panic. It's just that you need to now look at the whole 12 weeks versus just these 3 weeks that are in the second marking period. And it truly is because we're doing the right thing educationally for your children, but that the structure of the product doesn't really allow us to do it the way we'd like to do it.
So I see we're almost at 11, and this was to end at 10:30. We had a lot of great information, but I booked you till 11, yes. But
I was the overspill guy.
Does anyone have any other questions for Mike before I let him go? That was a really good question. Okay. Thanks for coming, Mike.
Go Chromebooks.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming so much. I think you've heard that from each and every one of our presenters today, but it is so nice to have, to be in a district where parents truly care and are real partners with us, and we are here to support you just as much as we're here to support your children. And I hope that you can hear that through every person who comes up here. We love middle school students. So any questions that you have, as you ponder what was shared today, feel free to contact any one of us. We're happy to help. If you have suggestions for us, we're happy to listen. And again, I just want to thank our Hudson PTO board here at the middle school for the time and effort to put today's event on, specifically Kristen and Elena. Let's give them a round of applause. And there are many, many treats in the back, so feel free to help yourself on your way out. Thank you again so much for coming.